makes me want to have a bowl. And yeah, I suppose in line with this, as I said, there's been a lot of news in the headlines recently calling on the government to change their approach to how we deal with drugs in our society. And last Friday on the news, we had Drew Harris featured on a little video there from RT, where he was talking about all sorts of lies again, yeah, spreading some myths there around the war on drugs. That he basically stated that if we were to decriminalise drugs, I actually have it here a little bit later on, that he believes that organised crimes would worsen with decriminalisation, which is nonsense. Like, he didn't back that up with any evidence at all. But more importantly, on that headline was that there was over 100 youth workers calling on the government to decriminalise and regulate drugs. And these guys have got a website up there. If you're not aware of it, it is YWAP Ireland. So Youth Workers Against Prohibition Ireland. So YWAPIreland.com. And I'm just going to pop up on the screen there now for you. Fingers crossed this works. Boom, there we go. Yes. So change starts with you. This is the opening what you're met once you get to the website, and this is an open letter that's written right down across the opening page of the website, and it starts as following. It says, "We have come together as a group of independent, experienced youth workers to raise our concerns about the policy of drug prohibition in Ireland. At present, youth workers are supporting over 380,000 young people in communities across the country. We see firsthand on a daily basis the untold damage that criminalising young people has in their life opportunities in Ireland. We see the devastation that unregulated drugs are inflicting on communities, as young people have no idea of the content, purity or consequences of what they are taking. Prohibition drives our young people who use drugs underground. It isolates them and places them in danger. We believe that the policy of prohibition, criminalisation has failed and is not the way forward." And it goes on. There's an incredible write-up there in it. Go head on over there yourselves, guys. Pay a visit to their website, drive the traffic up over there for them, and just let them know that there's a lot of support out there for this. But you can go over there and read the rest of this for yourselves. A great little infographic here then as well, prohibition versus regulation, and nice and simple. It doesn't need it doesn't need to be overcomplicated, really. This paints a perfect picture of the difference there. You take the guns out of it, you take the unregulated nature of it, you put instead strict quality, product quality and safety controls coming from licensed producers and a fair trade production, which is incredibly important as well when it comes to drugs like cocaine and things like that are being produced in some of the poorer countries out there, and the farmers being exploited, So again, as I say, like, there is a nice write-up there. I'm not going to go and read it all for yourself. Just go over there and check it out for yourselves. But the list of people then that are up here, it's at the very bottom. So again, starting it off is none other than himself, Gerard Rowe. Gerard Rowe we had on the podcast on episode 23, I think it was, Gerard. Can't remember now, that's off the top of my head. But Gerard Rowe was a guest of the podcast in the past, and shared with me his views and opinions. And he's got an interesting background himself as well. I can't remember if he shared it on the podcast. I think it was afterwards he disclosed to me, but he didn't really want to get into it in the podcast, that his parents had suffered with addiction as well, so he lost his parents due to that. So he's had first-hand experience as to the effects of drug addiction and drug abuse. So to see him up there is amazing. To have his support is amazing, because Gerard Rowe is he's an invaluable human being, and it really is. He's a national treasure. The things he does for the communities that he's serving, just completely it's invaluable. And the government have these people incredibly underfunded. Organisations that Gerard would work with are incredibly underfunded in Ireland, and therefore their ability to help young people is severely limited. But then we see on the other side of it, we have the Gardaí and their prohibition, and sure, there's no shortage of money. We've 321 Gardaí now on full-time duty, paid for the state, loads of overtime with that, along with expenses and vehicles and all sorts of things afforded to them to go out and to basically enforce failed policies. And meanwhile, people like Gerard Rowe and the other community groups that help our young people are having to beg from the communities, from the public, in order to kind of raise a bit of money, do different fundraisers and things like that. And it's ridiculous. We could end this prohibition. We could say, just look at cannabis, for example. How many times have I gone over, and I'll go through some rates there as well later, where cannabis has been seized, 100,000 worth of cannabis, like put a 23% tax on that. That's 23,000 euro. We could do amazing things in the community. And I could guarantee you, all of these communities out there are probably handing out this money already to the drug dealers, to the organised crime gangs. So why not just take the power away from the organised crime gangs, which is what the aim of these youth workers are. They don't want to see drugs out there openly sold or whatever. It's just, they just want to kill these organised crime gangs. So these organised crime gangs are doing untold harm to our societies. And that's because of prohibition. That's not because of drugs. The only reason these organised crime gangs have any interest in drugs is because of prohibition, because of the money in it. Take the money out of it. How do you take the money out of it? Well, the state gets involved. Next, you have a state-sponsored supply of cocaine, let's say. Again, I would say cocaine because I don't want the state getting their hands in cannabis. Let people like myself and the other really great people out there, the Greenbeards and everyone else out there who's growing their own, allow us to be able to grow our own cannabis. We don't need this kind of over-regulation. But certainly for things like cocaine and diamorphine, aka heroin, certainly the state could step in and say, look, we're going to actually supply this now to the people out there who are using this in our community in order to reduce the harms caused by the organised crime gangs, in order to protect the consumers then by ensuring a quality of supply. Like, it's a no-brain approach, like, really. Like, I don't understand why this is such a hard thing to get through to the fucking that skull of Frank Fian and the rest of these cronies up there. Like, how is it so hard to bloody understand? One of the signatories of the letter there with George Rowe is a man by the name of Eddie Darcy. Also, I've another photo there of Eddie Darcy. Sorry, that's Eileen Flynn. I popped up by mistake. Here's Eddie. It makes me want to have a bowl.